It was a Wednesday evening in late October when I first realized something was deeply wrong. I was sitting at the small desk in the corner of my room, the room that used to be a guest room, with the floral wallpaper I never chose and the window that looked out at the neighbor's fence instead of the backyard when I heard them laughing downstairs. All of them, my daughter, my son-in-law, my 2 grandchildren. The smell of pot roast drifted up through the floorboards, warm and rich, the kind of smell that used to fill my own kitchen for 40 years. No one had knocked on my door. I sat very still and listened to the sound of forks against plates, chairs scraping the floor, my grandson telling a story about something that happened at school, my granddaughter laughing at something her father said, my daughter saying, "Pass me that, honey." I had been in that house for 4 months, and it was the 3rd time that week I had not been called down for dinner. My name is Dorothy Elaine Pierce. I am 76 years old. I taught 3rd grade at Millbrook Elementary School in Dayton, Ohio for 31 years. I raised 2 children in a yellow house on Sycamore Lane. I buried my husband, Gerald, on a cold February morning 6 years ago, and I have not stopped missing him for a single day since. I am telling you this because I want you to understand who I was before I moved into that house. Before I became invisible, Gerald and I had planned everything carefully, the way people who love each other try to do. We had our savings, our small retirement, our house that was paid off. We had talked about what would happen when one of us was gone. "You'll be fine," he always said, squeezing my hand. "You are the strongest woman I have ever known." After he passed, I was fine. For a while, I kept the house on Sycamore Lane, kept my garden, kept meeting my friend Patricia every Tuesday for coffee. I drove myself to the grocery store and the doctor and the library. I read 2 books a week. I called my daughter, Melissa, every Sunday. Then, 2 winters ago, I had a fall. It was nothing dramatic. I slipped on the back porch steps in January, reaching for the bird feeder. I broke my wrist and bruised 2 ribs. I was home from the hospital in 2 days, but something shifted after that. Melissa started calling more. She started asking questions I hadn't been asked before. "Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping? Mom, are you taking your blood pressure medication consistently?" I told her yes, yes, and yes, all of which was true, but Melissa had already made up her mind. She drove up from Columbus the following April, sat across from me at my own kitchen table with a cup of coffee she had made herself, and told me she thought it was time for me to come live with her. "Just try it," she said. "Just for a year, see how you like it. We have the space, Mom. Tyler and Emma would love having you there." I looked at her face. She looked like Gerald when she was worried, the same small crease between her eyebrows, the same way she held her coffee cup with both hands. I loved her so much it was hard to breathe sometimes. "What does your husband think?" I asked. Melissa looked down at her coffee. "He thinks it's a great idea," she said. There was something in the pause before she answered that I noted and then tucked away. That is something I have learned in 76 years. You notice things. You file them away. You hope you are wrong. My son-in-law's name is Craig Holloway. He had worked in insurance sales for 15 years and coached Tyler's soccer team and kept the garage very organized. He was the kind of man who was always pleasant in a way that felt like a door that was never fully open. He called me Dorothy, not Mom. He shook my hand when I arrived with my suitcases instead of hugging me. "Great to have you, Dorothy," he said, carrying my bags upstairs. "We're going to make this work." The first few weeks were fine, more than fine, really. Emma, who was 9, started coming to my room after school to show me her drawings. Tyler, who was 13, let me watch his soccer practice and sat with me on the drive home, telling me about his friends in a serious, detailed way that reminded me of the boys I used to teach. Melissa made my favorite soup on Sundays. We watched old movies together in the evenings. Craig was polite. Distant, but polite. Then, something began to shift. Slowly, the way seasons change, you don't notice the exact moment summer becomes fall. You just realize one day that the air is different. It started small. Craig began coming home from work later. Dinner would be ready, and Melissa would say, "Just go ahead and start, Mom. Craig's running behind." So I would eat with the children while Melissa waited for her husband. Then Craig would come home, and the children would drift back to the table, and I would be clearing my plate while they were just sitting down together as a family. I started eating faster so I could linger. I did not want to be the one who excused herself while everyone else was still there. Then one evening in September, I came downstairs at my usual time and found the kitchen quiet. The table was set for 4, not 5, 4. Melissa was at the stove. She turned around when she heard me, and her face did something complicated, a flash of something I can only describe as guilt, followed quickly by a practiced smile. "Oh, Mom, I was just going to come get you. We're eating in the living room tonight. Craig wants to watch the game. I'll bring you a plate in here." "I can eat in the living room," I said. "It's not a big deal. You hate football anyway. It'll be noisy." She brought me a plate. I ate alone at the kitchen table while I heard the television and their voices from the other room. My grandchildren's laughter. Craig saying something I couldn't make out. Melissa's voice, easy and relaxed in a way it wasn't when she talked to me. I told myself it was nothing. But it happened again, and again. And with each time came a new reason. Craig had a work call. Tyler had a project due and needed quiet. Melissa was going through something. I could see the stress in her face, the way she moved through the house like someone carrying something heavy, and I did not want to add to it. I started to understand the shape of what was happening. It wasn't a plan, exactly. It was more like water finding its path through rock. I was being moved to the edges, gently, with smiles and excuses, but moved nonetheless. By October, I had begun to keep track. This is not something I told anyone, but I have always been a teacher, and teachers are observers. We notice patterns, we document. So I took the small spiral notebook I kept in my nightstand drawer, the one I used for grocery lists and phone numbers, and I began to write things down. October 4. Not called for dinner. Plate brought up at 7:15. Chicken that had gone cold. No one came to check on me. October 7. Asked Craig if I could join the family for Tyler's soccer game on Saturday. He said he'd check the logistics. Saturday came. They left without mentioning it. October 11. Melissa told me my doctor's appointment had been moved. I found out later it had not been moved. I missed it. That last one was the one that frightened me most. I had a prescription for my blood pressure medication. I had been on it for 6 years. I refilled it every month like clockwork. When I had moved in with Melissa and Craig, I had handed over my insurance card and let Melissa manage the prescriptions because she had offered and because I had thought that was what you did when you lived in someone else's home. You tried to be easy. You tried not to be a burden. In October, I ran out of my medication. I told Melissa. She said she would take care of it. A week passed. I told her again. She said the pharmacy had a delay. Another week passed. I am not a doctor, but I know what happens when blood pressure goes unmanaged. I know because Gerald's went unmanaged for too long, and I sat beside him in the hospital while they explained what damage had been done. I started rationing what I had left, half a pill instead of a whole, and I wrote it down in my notebook, every day, the date, the dose, what I had taken, and what I had not. It was during these weeks that I noticed another thing. The phone in my room, a landline, because the signal on my cell was weak upstairs, had gone quiet. I had always received calls. My friend Patricia called every week. My son, Michael, who lived in Phoenix, called every Sunday. My former colleague Betta called on the first of every month, without fail, because we had made that promise to each other when we both retired. The calls stopped. At first I assumed people were busy. Life gets busy. I tried calling Patricia from my cell, walking to the window where I could catch one bar of signal. The call dropped. I tried again. It rang and rang. I asked Melissa if something was wrong with the landline. She picked it up, listened, handed it back. "Sounds fine to me," she said. It did not sound fine to me. There was a quality to the silence on that line that I could not explain too clean, somehow, too empty. One morning, while Melissa had taken the children to school and Craig was at work, I went downstairs to the phone in the kitchen. I called Patricia's number, a number I had known for 30 years. She picked up on the second ring. "Dorothy!" Her voice warm, surprised, a little worried. "My goodness, I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I thought something had happened." "Something did," I said. And then I sat down at that kitchen table and I told her everything. Patricia listened the way only old friends can, without interrupting, without jumping to fix things, just breathing steadily on the other end of the line until I had said everything I had been holding. "Dorothy," she said, when I was done, You know this isn't right. I know, I said. Does Melissa know what Craig is doing? I thought about that for a long moment. I thought about the guilt I saw on my daughter's face when she handed me a plate and looked away too quickly. I thought about how she had started avoiding being alone with me. I thought about the way she smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. I don't know, I said. I don't know if she knows or if she just doesn't want to know. There's a difference, Patricia said. I know there is, I said. That's the part I'm still trying to figure out. I need to stop here and tell you something, because I think it matters. I am not someone who assumes the worst of people. 31 years of teaching third grade will give you either tremendous cynicism or tremendous faith in human beings, and it gave me faith. I have seen 8-year-olds do things that broke my heart, and 8-year-olds do things that restored it. I choose to believe that most people are trying, in whatever limited way they can. I chose to believe that about Melissa for a long time. But I am also 76 years old. And at 76, you do not have the luxury of waiting too long. After I spoke with Patricia, I went back upstairs and I sat at my small desk and I thought carefully about what I had. I had a notebook with 6 weeks of documentation. I had a missed doctor's appointment and a medication that had gone unfilled for 3 weeks. I had a phone line that I was now certain had been restricted in some way, not cut, but filtered, redirected, managed. I had a pattern. And I had something else, something Craig did not know about. Before I retired, I taught 31 years of third grade. In that time, I had students who grew up and stayed in Ohio, students who sent me Christmas cards, students who became teachers themselves, students who became nurses and social workers and, yes, lawyers. I had kept every address I ever had for them, not digitally, on paper, in a small green address book that I had carried in my purse for 20 years. That address book was in my purse, which was in my room, which was the one place in that house that was still entirely mine. I wrote 6 letters that afternoon. By hand, on the stationery I had brought from Sycamore Lane, cream-colored paper with small blue flowers at the top that Patricia had given me years ago. I told the truth, the same way I had always told my students to tell the truth. Not with drama, not with exaggeration, but with clarity and facts. I told them where I was. I told them what was happening. I told them what I needed. I addressed them, stamped them from the small book of stamps in my purse, and the next morning, when Melissa took Emma to her orthodontist appointment and Craig was at work, I walked 6 houses down the street and dropped them in the neighbor's mailbox. It took 11 days. On a Tuesday morning, my cell phone rang. The name on the screen was one I had not seen in 22 years. Amanda Forsyth, now Amanda Forsyth Cole. She had been in my very first third grade class, the year I started teaching. She was now a family law attorney in Cleveland. Mrs. Pierce, she said. I had been Dorothy to her in letters, but on the phone, I was still Mrs. Pierce. Some things stay. I got your letter. I've already talked to 2 other people who got letters. We want to help. I had to press my lips together for a moment before I could speak. Because I had written those letters believing they were the right thing to do, but I had not been entirely sure anyone would come. When you are 76 and you have been made to feel invisible for long enough, you begin to wonder if you are. Thank you, I finally said. I just need someone to know where I am. We're going to do more than that, Amanda said. I will not tell you it happened quickly, because it didn't. It took 3 more weeks. There were phone calls I wasn't part of and conversations I didn't hear. Amanda contacted my son Michael in Phoenix, who I later learned had been trying to reach me and had been told, each time he called the house, that I was resting or unavailable. Michael, who is 51 years old and not a man who takes no for an answer, got in his car and drove from Phoenix to Dayton in 2 days. I was in my room on a Thursday afternoon when I heard his voice downstairs. I cannot describe what it was like to hear my son's voice in that house. I sat very still for a moment, because I didn't trust what I was hearing. Then I heard him say, clearly, firmly, with the voice of a man who grew up knowing his mother, I'd like to see her now, please. I opened my bedroom door. Michael was standing at the bottom of the stairs. He looked up at me. He is a tall man, my son, with Gerald's same square jaw and my own stubborn eyes. When he saw me, something moved across his face, a kind of controlled grief, the way men who love their mothers try to hold themselves together. Hi, Mom, he said. Hi, sweetheart, I said. I walked down those stairs on my own 2 legs. I want you to know that. I walked down on my own. What happened after that involved conversations I will not recount in full, because some of them belong to my family and no one else. I will tell you that Craig sat across from my son, and my son's voice never rose above a reasonable tone and said things that I understand were very clear. I will tell you that Melissa cried in a way that told me she had known more than she had admitted to herself. I will tell you that my notebook, those 6 weeks of small, precise notes, was later reviewed by Amanda, who called it, without emotion, a record of elder neglect. I will tell you that my blood pressure medication was refilled that same day. Michael took me to stay with a woman named June, his former college roommate's mother, a widow who had a spare room in her house in a Columbus suburb and who made terrible coffee and wonderful biscuits and who told me, the first morning I was there, you don't have to explain anything, you just have to rest. I slept for 11 hours that first night. I cannot remember the last time I had slept that way deeply, without that low hum of alertness that had lived in my chest for months. When I woke up, the sun was already high, and I could hear birds outside, and for a moment I forgot where I was. Then I remembered, and I lay there, in that unfamiliar room, and I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Safe. It has been 7 months now. I want to tell you where I am, because I think it matters to end this the right way. I am living in a small apartment in a senior community in Westerville, Ohio. It is mine, my own lease, my own key, my own front door. Michael helped me find it. It has a kitchen with a window over the sink that looks out at a small courtyard where someone planted marigolds, and every morning I stand at that window and drink my coffee and watch the light change on those flowers, and I feel like myself. My medication is managed by my own doctor, at appointments I schedule and attend myself. Patricia drives up on Tuesdays. We have reinstated our coffee ritual, which we had let lapse over the years, and which I now consider non-negotiable. Amanda Mrs. Forsyth Cole, my student who became an attorney, is still in touch. She sends me updates, which I appreciate, but which matter less than the simple fact of what she did. She showed up. All of them showed up. And Melissa. I know you are wondering about Melissa. We are not where we were. I do not know if we will ever be where we were. But she called me 6 weeks ago, and she did not make excuses or offer explanations, and that was somehow better than if she had. She just said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm working on understanding what I let happen." I said, "I know. Because I do know. Love does not protect people from failure. It just makes the failure harder. Craig and I do not speak. I do not require that to change. There is one more thing I want to tell you, because it is the part that matters most to me. 3 months ago, I started a reading group. It meets on Thursday afternoons at the Westerville Public Library, a small room in the back with picture books stacked in milk crates and small chairs that are honestly a little difficult to get out of at my age. I invited children from the after-school program, 3rd graders mostly, because 3rd grade is what I know. 8 children came the first Thursday, 12 the second. Last week, there were 17. I sit in a chair that is slightly larger than theirs. I told the librarian we needed at least one sensible chair, and I read to them. We do voices. We argue about characters. A boy named Marcus told me last week, very seriously, that the wolf in the story we were reading was not actually bad, he was just misunderstood, and we spent 25 minutes on that question, and I have not been that happy in years. I cook again, too. Real meals, in my own kitchen, at whatever time I choose. Last Sunday I made pot roast. I ate it at my own table, with music playing from the small radio I bought at the second-hand shop down the street, and I thought about that Wednesday evening in October when I sat alone listening to my family laugh in the next room. I thought about that woman. I understood her, but I am not her anymore. I want you to hear this. If you are watching, and you are in a situation that feels like it has quietly closed around you, I want you to hear this if you have started to feel like you are too old to matter, too much of a burden to ask for help, too far from shore to swim back. You are not. I taught 3rd grade for 31 years. I buried my husband. I broke my wrist on a cold January morning and got back up. I spent 6 months being made to feel like a guest in my own family, invisible, unnecessary, managed. And I got out, not because someone rescued me, though they helped, I got out because I sat down at a desk in a room with floral wallpaper I never chose, and I picked up a pen and I wrote the truth down. Every day, every single day, I wrote down what was happening, because I refused to let it become something that happened to me in silence. If you are keeping your own notebook, keep it. Write it down. You are not imagining things. You are not too sensitive. You are not a burden. You are a person. You have a name and a history and a voice, and no one has the right to take those from you. Not quietly, not slowly, not with smiles and excuses and doors that are never fully open. My name is Dorothy Elaine Pierce. I'm 76 years old. I taught third grade for 31 years. And I am still here.